A large sign greets us here. Mission San Luis Rey de Francia, founded in 1798. I did not. So that was a very pleasant introduction into this episode of History Hunters. Welcome. I'm here at the beautiful, very beautiful Oceanside, California on this beautiful Saturday morning. It's late June. This is actually considered the king of the missions. It's the 18th of the 21 missions that were established by the Spaniard missionaries here in California in the 1700s. Actually, Father Junipero Serra established missions up and down California within a 1 day's travel by horse. This building behind me was built in 1815, but the first mission here was established in 1798. To give you some historical perspective, that was a year before the death of George Washington. This mission is San Luis Rey de Francia, named after King Louis IX of France. We're going to show you a little bit about this mission and talk to you about it on this episode. I've actually had a number of viewers ask me when I was going to do a show on missions, and we came down here to Oceanside for a couple of days for relaxation, and I decided, why not do this mission? It's the king of the missions, and it's got some interesting historical aspects to it. So I want to start out by talking about these bells. These bells mark the original El Camino Real route that linked California's 21 missions, founded by Father Junipero Serra, and mostly spaced 1 day's journey apart by horse from San Diego to Sonoma. The idea of marking the highway with bells started with Anna Pitcher in 1892 and was eventually made a reality by the California Federation of Women's Clubs. The very first bell was installed in 1906 in front of the Old Plaza Church in Los Angeles, and 7 years later, in 1913, over 400 bells had been placed along the El Camino Real. Now, because of vandalism and theft, a lot of the original bells had disappeared along the route. This El Camino Real bell, donated by the Women's Club of Oceanside, recognizing the historical significance of Mission San Luis Rey to the North County area, June 12, 1966. I'm going to take you over here to the ruins. Buildings were made out of adobe, which is basically a mixture of mud and water, and they formed bricks, and they lasted quite a while. Let's see what this says here. Okay, so this was the Mormon Battalion. Exactly 150 years ago, American families, adherents of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, were driven from Nauvoo, then the largest city of Illinois, created by them out of the marshlands along the Mississippi River. Their goal was a high desert valley at the mouth of the Great Salt Lake, where they could worship God according to the dictates of their conscience. En route and at Council Bluffs, Iowa, during late June and early July of 1846, discussions with federal officials resulted in the enlistment of 500 volunteers as soldiers in the Army of the United States to march to California in defense of its people. The state of California had just been made a state in 1850, and they needed to defend it against the Mexicans, who were a little resistant to this whole proposition. Okay, now this details that after completing the longest infantry march in military history and without firing a shot in mortal combat, they arrived here January 1847. They were thereafter garrisoned at the Mission San Luis Rey. These are the original foundations that were established here way back. So these were basically barracks. It's very cool that they've decided to leave them here as a lesson to us all how the state of California came to be. squirrels there have made this home because you can't go in there, so they're pretty much protected. Now, if you didn't grow up in California, you probably don't know that I believe it's in the 3rd grade or so, you have to make a report on a mission and build an example of the mission, usually out of sugar cubes and such. So it's a neat family project, but it taught kids about the colonization of California and how the Spaniards tried to convert the Indians over to Catholicism. And there's something I just spotted over here. Look at the wooden sills that are still in the building. Some of the nails poking out at the bottom. That's pretty cool. Now, even though this is a mission, it's a religious establishment, look at that, coffee shop. I want to go back here because there is a pepper tree. It's supposedly the oldest pepper tree in California. I believe it was planted in 1830. Before I take a look at this pepper tree, it says it's the oldest pepper tree in California, planted by Father Antonio Pyri in the middle of the mission garden. Seeds were brought to San Luis Rey in 1830 by a sailor from Peru, and the tree still stands today. It's back there. Through the old gate. Check out the old gate. Wow. Well, apparently, because there's a retreat going on, there's no way I can get close to the pepper tree. Oldest pepper tree in California, so we have to shoot it from this distance right here. So pretty cool. Look at that gnarly trunk. That is just amazing. Planted in 1830. Wow. And there is one of the original El Camino Real bells. Look like they removed it, put it in a safe place. They've been stolen over the years. I can imagine that they're highly prized, stolen collectible. And there's the original gate. Very cool. There's a statue of Jesus being scourged by Roman soldiers on his way to the crucifixion. Right here at the base of the flagpole is one of these historical markers. Historical landmark number 239, San Luis Mission, San Luis Rey de Francia, founded June 12th, 1798 by Father Lasuen, then president of the California Missions, and administered by Father Pyri. Notable for its impressive architecture, a composite of Spanish, Moorish, and Mexican.
The missions in California were established by Catholic priests of the Franciscan order to evangelize indigenous peoples with the backing of Spanish military troops. Indigenous people were held against their will and sometimes tortured for desertion. Joining the missionaries in forming settlements around the missions were civilian settlers and soldiers. The missions were part of New Spain's attempt to expand and settle territory through the formation of Alta California, expanding into the most northern and western parts of Spanish North America. The 21 Spanish missions are along a 600-mile route stretching from San Diego to Sonoma. The first mission constructed was in San Diego in 1769, and the last one in Sonoma in 1823. In 1821, Mexico gained its independence from Spain, first as the First Mexican Empire, then as the Mexican Republic. Alta California became a territory instead of a full state. The missions were abolished in 1834, and many of them fell into a severe state of neglect.
Now, aside from this being a mission, you need to know that this was also a TV filming location. This mission was used for the filming of episodes 2, 3, 4, and 12 of Zorro. In 1957, actor Guy Williams starred in the popular TV series. There's actually a scene of him going right through this gate here. I understand that the skull and crossbones up there were put in place for the movie or the TV series. I can't verify that, but I'll try to do that. shown on the TV series of the front of the mission, where Zorro scaled the bell tower in one escape scene. The cemetery was shown, the arcade was shown, the bell tower, the colonnade, and inside the church. And I understand that inside the cemetery here is a commemoration plaque dedicated to Guy Williams, established in 1798. Wow, I didn't expect to see this kind of a cemetery here. Let's check it out. I'll look at this one right here. The rebar is shown through the concrete. That's sad. There's some recent graves here as well. I don't think I expected this kind of a large cemetery here. I don't know who Corby is, one of the largest mausoleums here. Actually, probably the only one here. Now this one here is a basic Indian memorial monument built 1830 in memory of all the Indians buried here in Mission San Luis Rey Cemetery. Here's another old one. Carolina Moreno Bandini. She died 1873. She was just 24. Also filmed at the mission here was a Western classic of the late 1950s, Half Gun Will Travel. Of course, that one starred Richard Boone. And in 1988, there was a full-length movie called A Time of Destiny featuring the mission here. It's a love story, revenge set in World War I in Italy and San Diego. That movie starred William Hurt and Timothy Hutton as two friends who became enemies. Let's go over here against this wall. There's a bunch of crypts here. The Franciscan burial crypts. Now I believe that means the fathers who are buried here. There's a number of them. I'm seeing dates of 1930s to there's a recent one, 2000. Yeah, so they're not very old. They look old though. There's Father Sarah, but he's been villainized lately by people who didn't appreciate what he did to convert the Indians. Now you can almost miss this, it's so low to the ground, but it's a mill grinding stone. It was used for grinding grains into flour. Isn't that cool? This was the third church. It was built in 1815. It stands on the site of the first two missions that were obviously decayed or burned or removed. So between 1798 and 1832, the mission became home to about 3,000 native Luiseño Indians. They were secularized after Mexican independence in 1821, and the land was to be returned to the Indians, but that wasn't the case. The administrators gained title, leaving nothing to the Indians. From 1847 to 1857, U.S. soldiers used this mission as a military base. In 1850, California became part of the United States. In 1865, Abraham Lincoln returned the mission to the Catholic Church. The mission was abandoned in 1892 when a group of Mexican Franciscans came. From 1892 to 1912, they repaired the church and built living quarters on the foundations of the old mission where the museum is. So now I'm going to go on the inside and show you what it looks like. The inside was also used and featured in the TV series Zorro. So a film crew shot in here. I don't know if there's anything taking place, but since it is an active church still, I need to remain quiet. I'll just show you what I can find in there.
But even he would be afraid to risk public censure.
If this mysterious Zorro had not freed me, I would have been hanged by now. Padre, do you know who this Zorro is?
No, but whoever he is, my prayers ride with him. Diego, my son, I'm so glad to see you. Is the army still outside?
Oh, yes, in full force. Are you all right, Don Nacho? I called on your daughter and tried to reassure her. Thank you, my boy. For the moment, at least, I seem to be safe.
Of course he's safe. But my oranges won't be unless I go back outside. They have to be under cover in case it freezes tonight. You'll stay with us a while, won't you?
Of course. Padre Felipe seems a good deal more confident than you.
Yes, but I cannot spend the rest of my life in his church.
Perhaps when my father hears where you are, he can plead your case with the governor.
No, Diego, I do not want your father involved in this. Do you not realize I am accused of treason?
Oh, but everyone knows you haven't committed this crime.
Listen, Diego, stay out of this.
I found another bell here that's right in front of the mission. It was erected in 1813 by the San Diego County Board of Supervisors with each of their name on it. That is such a cool bell. I have to wait for the museum to open at 10 o'clock. I was going to say it's closed, but I am going to wait around until it opens at 10 o'clock so I can show you what's inside there.
Okay, made our way inside the museum, and a bunch of baskets made by the natives. They're right here. Looks like these are altar bread cooking irons. The crucifix of 18th century polychrome mounted on wood, formerly hung above the side altar of the mission church right there. Now this is very hard to shoot, but it shows the Padres' walking staff made of oak wood, used by the early Padres of the mission era. Last remaining one in California. There it is, check it out. That thing's seen a lot of miles. There's a crown of thorns carved in the center. This is the friar's sun hat used by the early California missionaries, one of two remaining originals. Various artifacts from this mission. Rosary, eyeglasses, cups. There's the father who established this mission there. This is an ancient copper brandy still, over 160 years old, found on the Mission San Luis Rey grounds. Wow, can you imagine? I guess they were drinking, huh? Now what is this? This is liturgical vestments worn for Mass. A beautiful portrait of Mary and Jesus, early 18th century Spanish oil on canvas. According to this, in efforts to communicate more easily with the Luiseños, the friars brought with them pictures and statues. Most helpful were images of Mary with the baby Jesus, since the love between a mother and child can be understood by all. In creation, the Indians honor not only the masculine, but also the feminine, so it made sense that a woman would play a major role in their new faith.
Check out this old iron bell in the courtyard. That is so cool. 3 of the original quadrangle bells, rung daily by Indian boys to announce the hours of meals, prayer, and end of the workday, made of bronze, 1814, and the smaller ones were 1818. And check it out. This is a sword, 1800 to 1850, with a brass sheath, ivory, and brass hilt. Officers dress ceremonial sword with Tripolian blade, inscribed E pluribus unum. There's an iron stirrup. Here's an early picture of the mission. Wow. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this visit to the Mission San Luis Rey. I hope that you enjoyed what we showed you today. And if you could leave us a comment, that would be always appreciated. You know the spiel at the end. If you could hit the like button, that helps us out too. 10:15. Wrapped that pretty quick. Thanks so much for joining us.